According to an old military maxim, amateurs talk about strategy, professionals talk about logistics. These days, we need a third category. Immature, insecure guys think that war is about acting tough and looking cool. Hi, Paul Krugman with a podcast update for today. Uh, I want to weigh in on the incredible rash of stories about how Trump and company are eviscerating the military. It is truly remarkable. If there's one thing that we thought that the United States was still kind of number one at, it was that we had the world's premier military. Now, of course, we managed to rather quickly, effectively lose the war with Iran, although current management will never admit it, but also just a series of stories, some of them related to that war, some of them going beyond and to other areas that just are truly shocking, even for somebody like me, who had no expectation that this administration would be doing any good for the nation. Just to remember the story. So, um, first we had the big warning that the U.S. military was basically running out of ammunition, that the precision missiles that are so essential to waging war were largely gone, expended unproductively against Iran. And clearly, sort of the cost benefit calculus was a disaster because the Iranians were sending cheap drones and we were using multi-million-dollar weapons in an attempt to counter them. Then, after that, we got the story about the horrific conditions on board the USS Lincoln, the aircraft carrier that's been stationed for a very long time without, it appears, adequate resupply, with toilets flooding the decks, just horrific conditions there, which turn out to be not unique to that. Other ships are having problems. There's the USS Boxer, an amphibious assault vehicle ship, which is apparently has run out of feminine hygiene products, among other things. Uh, okay, so we have those horrific stories. And then we have the stories about Trump intervening, uh, demanding, apparently successfully, well, first demanding that the Navy construct a whole new class of ships, Trump class battleships, which are useless and would be sitting ducks, then demanding that the Navy replace modern catapults with steam catapults, which he thinks are cooler, and then demanding that they relocate the command tower on aircraft carriers because he wants them to look more like the way they looked during World War II. Okay, this is not. Is this America? I mean, we are. The American way of war was always one in which, we are not a warrior nation, which is fine. We are a lot of other things. We were a nation that was supreme in the arts of peace. We were a nation of know-how. America won its wars by doing the arts of peace right, by building better and more stuff than other countries. By getting our act together in ways that didn't necessarily involve fighting. Of course, you always need courageous warriors. You always need people able and willing to, risk death in the service of their nation. But what America was supreme at was, logistics. If you ask, how did the U.S., how did America and its allies pull off D-Day? Well, a lot of it was being able to deliver supplies to the beaches of Normandy in a way that the Germans never thought was possible. America was always the country that was really good at logistics. For us to be not feeding our sailors, not able to keep ships that are not, after all, under fire all the time, not able to keep the plumbing working, that is an incredible fall from a state of grace. Uh, the uh, the military, the idea that the president is imposing his personal aesthetic preferences to undo design decisions that were made by military professionals is also basically incredible. Okay, what is this all about? And what happened? So some of it is, specifically military, but mostly it's not. Um, the I think these military failings should be put in the same context as the frantic and disastrous destruction and redesign of Washington, D.C., the demolition of the East Wing, the disastrous attempt to refurbish the reflecting pool to reflect Trump's aesthetics. Even the gold, the leaf and gold lettering that is polluting the White House. All of this is really part of the same picture. So what is going on here? Obviously, Trump. We have a seriously mentally ill, deficient guy in with his finger on the button. The president of the United States is clearly uh, dissociating. I'm not sure it's I've been calling it sundowning because I have actually seen sundowning. My father's awful last year. He is not in full possession of his faculties, and he is obsessing about things that are really just kind of remnant ego trips. This is according to, I haven't read the Haberman book yet, but he spends a large fraction of his time and probably a larger fraction of his mental energy on his redecoration projects, which aside from all being carried out disastrously are also in incredibly bad taste. But this is where he is. He's actually more interested in his giant tacky gilded ballroom than he is in the fate of the nation. Uh, but how does somebody like this end up in able to impose his will on these disastrous things? How does he end up able to eviscerate the military? Well, part of it is that this is a wannabe authoritarian regime. We're in a peculiar state now where the United States is not yet a police state. It is not yet a place where the secret police will cart you away for expressing the wrong opinion. Although, if you're not not a white U.S. citizen, you might worry about that at this point, and maybe the time is coming when that will extend. But in any case, we are not yet uh, East Germany under the Stasi. We are not yet Putin's Russia. But the Republican Party, senior politicians, people who should be feeling that they have at least some dignity, ability to take a stand, behave as if they were living in an authoritarian state. They're obviously terrified. They're afraid to express any dissent. They go along with Bush's. They go along with. See, I'm living. I'm dissociating, living in the past myself. They're going along with Trump's wishes. Um, on top of that, there is, again, I think it really helps to think of the ruling party in America right now as being a party that behaves as if we were a full-on authoritarian state. One of the things we learn about in studying how authoritarian regimes behave is that, uh, first of all, that the leader is actually can be possibly the worst informed person in the nation because nobody dares to tell him bad news. We're hearing this a lot about Putin, that he doesn't know how badly his war is going. Well, Trump, in many ways, probably still doesn't understand how badly his war is going. Uh, the really striking thing about the munitions shortage and now the horrible conditions on U.S. ships is that to the extent that any action has been taken on either of those issues is it has been only after extensive reporting in the press. So now the Pentagon is talking about a crash program to have defense manufacturers produce more of the missiles that we've been running out of. But that it's not clear it's even started yet, but that call didn't happen until, many months into the war. Whereas the munitions shortage was obvious to independent observers just a few weeks in, that we were expending munitions that we couldn't replace. Nothing happened until there was widespread press reporting. The USS Lincoln has finally uh, been recalled for refit and shore leave. That didn't happen until after many press stories about it, all of which were denied, but it's very obvious just looking at the behavior that the Pentagon and Hegseth and Trump finally reacted saying, oh, I guess there's something needs to be done. We can't let this go on. But they didn't do it until after the press reported. Now, is this because they're totally callous? Well, they are. They don't care at all. The people who yell support the troops most loudly are the people who actually have no interest whatsoever in supporting the troops. But I think it's probably also the case that they may not have known, that nobody told Trump that we were running out of missiles. He may have read some press stories to that effect, but he said that's all fake news, and nobody within the administration was willing to tell them. They may not have been willing to tell Hegseth either, who, by all accounts, flies to a rage and punishes anybody who brings him bad news. So they just didn't hear about this. They didn't hear about the munitions. They didn't hear about the conditions for U.S. sailors uh, until the drumbeat and the press became too loud for them to remain insulated, to remain in denial. So this is what happens. This is the problem with authoritarian regimes. It's also, by the way, the problem that we have with authoritarian regimes, which is that they have a single point of failure. You elevate one person to a position of untouchable authority, and if that person, loses it, if that person is sundowning, there is no recourse. One more thing to say about what's going on is that the authoritarian regimes systematically promote incompetence. This is all inherent, Hannah Arendt, on totalitarianism. That it's not just that they value sycophancy, they value loyalty above competence. They actually actively dislike competence, because someone who is competent, someone who knows what they're doing, might stand on their dignity, might refuse to follow instructions from above. You need third raters or worse. This has been true in areas that I know something about. It's been true of right-wing economics forever. It's long been the case that although there are plenty of conservative, competent economists, what the right wing wanted, even pre-Trump, was they wanted creatures like Steve Moore or Larry Kudlow, people who had no idea actually how to do economic analysis, but were unimpeachably, unquestionably loyal because, after all, uh, they had no constituency to fall back on. So we have this mix of uh, leader principle, Führerprinzip. Yes, I think we're allowed to use the original German here. Um, uh, Information blackout at the top because nobody wants to tell the leader bad news, and incompetence as a general principle throughout the government. And the same thing is, now, if you want to understand how the reflecting pool happened, if you want to understand how we ended up with this hole in the ground, which was previously the east wing of the White House, all of this is fundamentally the same stuff, and lots of other areas of policy as well. I guess most of us thought, mea culpa, I thought that the military would be among the last places to be hit by this. That, first of all, it's sort of obvious, should be obvious even to people like Trump and Hegseth, that you don't muck too much with the military, that you don't uh, you don't destroy the one instrument you really have, and also that the military itself had, so I thought, a strong enough culture that it would enough, highly respected among the populace, that the military would be able to stand up and say no. But it turns out that I was wrong. And so instead of being insulated from the craziness and incompetence, the military is actually possibly the most acute victim of everything that's happening. And they might manage to start feeding the sailors. They might actually manage to fix the toilets, though I would put full 100% odds on that. But the broader problem of really destroying one of the last real sources of U.S. strength, that is not going to go away. Instead, it's going to be the same thing, and the misery will continue until morale improves. Have a great day.